Welcome to Nickel City Chronicles with my partner Robbie Miles Jones. And today is one of our regulars, Jamal Dabney, comic creator. And today we want to talk about history.
Of course, bro.
Me and Jamal have been going back and forth in the DMs about just ancient history and different accounts, what they said about people. We got books like Herodotus, we got Josephus, we got Pliny the Elder, Eusebius, Pythagoras, Plato.
Wow.
We want to get into some of the stuff that these people wrote about because we're talking about ancient thousands of years ago, before any of this technology that we're using right now existed, when all you had was word of mouth and what was written down on papyrus. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Oh yeah.
And the world, man, is just fascinating because it's so deep. The history goes so deep, dude.
Oh no,
yeah,
most
it's
definitely
connected at the same time.
Yeah, and it's a precursor to how we got here today, man. That stuff is fascinating, man. Don't forget, man, the Book of Enoch, man. You just I definitely got to start reading that thing you sent me, bro. I'm definitely gonna get on it though.
Let's talk about that for a second. So
crazy.
the Book of Enoch is
legendary,
this lost Bible book. It doesn't exist in any of the canon Bible books, right?
There's a movie about it too.
But it's an apocrypha book, and it's not only is it an apocrypha book, it's referenced by the actual canonized Bible. So they talk about Enoch, and they talk about how he ascended into heaven. Then you read the Book of Enoch. They found it in Ethiopia in a cave somewhere.
Oh man, that's like some movie shit, right?
And it's written in this old language, this old dead language that it's like a combination of African and Hebrew. And it's called the Ge'ez language. And they talk about how Enoch got taken up in a whirlwind, but they describe it like a metallic item, like a spaceship or something.
Yeah, like
that's what it sounds like.
A lot of drawings like this.
Yeah, when you read it with the modern mind, you're like, that sounds like a spaceship or something, right?
Oh yeah,
it sounds wild. And he goes up there and he tells Enoch, "Tell your grandson Noah to build an ark because we're coming. We're going to flood the whole world out." And by the way, that angel that you know, Satan, tell him he's not allowed back here anymore. And that's the first time you hear about the falling of Satan is in the Book of Enoch.
Wow.
Because he tells them all those fallen demons that are down there right now that are going around and making giant babies because the offsprings were giants.
Right. Oh yeah, of the Watchers. And
he's like
human women.
The ones that are teaching men how to make metal and swords and do all this crazy stuff. Tell them they're not allowed back in heaven.
Oh,
so then Enoch goes back and he meets up with Satan and he's like, "Listen, you're shit out of luck, bro. Like God don't want you to go back in heaven." So Satan goes, "Please, just go and vouch for me. He likes you. Please tell him that I'm sorry." He goes back up. He's like, Satan, he's like, "God, Satan said that he wants to come back. He said he's sorry." And God's like, "How dare you come back here and try to vouch for him? And I told you to tell him." He's like, "When I say something, it stands, and that's it. It's over with."
Oh, shit.
He's like, "And by the way, I'm going to bound him in chains and put him in the center of the earth, and he's going to stay there forever, for eternity." That's his punishment. It's like, woo! But then he said this, though. Then he goes, I will give him the permission to go around earth and do his thing and stay there, but he can't leave earth. So that's the introduction to Satan right there.
Wow.
Besides the Garden of the Eden, besides the serpent.
All of those things that you just touched on in the book, it also relates to some ancient Sumerian mythology as well.
Yeah.
Because there's reference of, there being an underworld,
right?
A middle playing ground, earth, and then the heavens.
Yeah, the Sumerians, man.
It's pretty deep, bro.
That's like the first civilization of city-states, of like real, actual having government. You know what I'm saying? Before the Sumerians, there was no government. The Sumerians were the first civilization to have a government, to have like real city status. Yeah, they have like mail. They had like a mail system going. But yeah, man, like, so I don't know. What are some stuff about, like, what are some of your stuff that fascinates you about history?
Man, well, going back to what you were just touching on too, the talk about fallen angels, and mating with women and producing giants, bro. Like that stuff is crazy. And that stuff, like, I always wonder, like, once I started learning about that, man, like, why don't they talk about that on Sunday?
Yeah,
like,
especially when you find a 7+ foot skeletal remains from so many years ago.
Yeah.
Which was I heard that was they talk about those remains were covered up by like the original Smithsonian Museum.
Right.
Like that's some deep stuff.
But you know, even more beyond that, like in Africa, you got the Mali Empire, you got Timbuktu,
ancient civilizations.
You got these civilizations that thrived. Hannibal was
this is like throughout history.
Mansa Musa. Yeah, like
West African king of Mali, right?
Yeah,
where it's inexplicable technological advances.
Yeah, they were they were super advanced.
And scientists now can't explain how they got certain structures the way that they did, or how they were able to move such humongous pieces of land without the technology we have around today. It's quite inexplicable.
Yeah, like the pyramids. The pyramids are undeniable something advanced, like the way the geometry of these things and the degrees, like how they line up north perfectly almost to a tenth of a degree.
In line with the
the constellation of Orion's belt. The three pyramids line up the constellation of Orion's belt on the summer and winter solstices, and it's just
can't be a coincidence.
You can't without modern day technology. How do you do that? Even with modern day technology, you still can't do that. I couldn't do it.
And that leads up to the all-knowing and epic, question, like, were they helped by
something?
But I mean,
by something.
But if you look throughout history, they all point to, and I said it before the podcast, before we came on and talked, like they all religions and or forms of culture, like they all speak of something otherworldly coming down to help. Yeah. Even gods, when you hear about gods in certain religions, they come down from the heavens.
Yeah. And in most of those hieroglyphs, these carvings or these depictions of these deities or these figures are talking to beings that are much smaller than them, plainly must be us, and they're always directing them like to
upwards.
Go back to the sky. Or some type of, and that goes with like any religion. You die and you go up.
It makes you wonder, right? Because
the good place is up, the bad place is down.
Yeah, that makes you wonder because a lot of the ancient writers talk about going to Egypt, to Alexandria, or even just to like Timbuktu or Upper Egypt and Ethiopia to get knowledge, to learn these things from Hermes the Great and from Mansa Musa and all these ancient people and Pythagoras. This book right here. The Pythagoras Source Book and Library. There's a lot of his writings in here. A lot of people that wrote about him. They put it all together in one book.
Okay.
This translation by Kenneth Sylvan. He talks about how Pythagoras traveled to Africa to get all this knowledge that was advanced knowledge that he was going to bring back to Greece. And Pythagoras was the first of a line of philosophers and mathematicians to teach that went down from generation to generation. So Pythagoras taught, who did he teach? I think it was Socrates who taught Plato, who taught, that's exactly what it was. Pythagoras taught Socrates, who taught Plato, who taught Aristotle. And Aristotle taught Alexander the Great everything he knew. Alexander the Great was the first person to take over the entire world. The book Plato's Republic right here. Plato writes about a philosopher king that's going to come and take over the world and is going to change the world forever. And it's going to take the world full of tribes and crime and madness, and he's going to take it under one global city-states and like have like order and law and order and change the world to a republic. That's why the book's called The Republic. And he did that.
He was talking about Alexander the Great the whole time.
Yeah, so Philip of Macedon invents this new military technique called the phalanx. I'm showing a picture of it right now. The phalanx are these long spears, and he would give all these long spears and giant shields to his army, and they were impossible to penetrate the army because think about it. Imagine trying to run through a whole army full of these long spears, trying to get through them all. You can't get in there. So what they did was they marched.
They picked it on 300, except they had smaller.
Yeah. Actually, it was Philip of Macedon who took over the Spartans. So the Spartans were ruling Greece. They were the superior army of Greece until Philip of Macedon, the Macedonians, took over Sparta. Sparta
won the war against Athens, right?
Yes,
and that's why they.
That's crazy. Then about 50 years later, Philip of Macedon took over Greece. He became the king. Macedonia had the throne. So he dies, and Alexander the Great, who got taught by these philosophers who were taught by the Egyptians and the Africans, and he goes and takes over the whole world. First, he goes into Persia, or modern day Turkey, and he fights Darius, the Persian emperor of the world. He had the throne of the world. He was king of the world. He's in the Bible.
Yeah. Very cocky.
Yeah, he's even in the Bible. He's the king of the world. And Alexander the Great, just like it was prophesied by Daniel, came over and took over the world with his phalanx. He went into Babylon, and he did his ride into Babylon, which was the epic march into Babylon. Is like this notorious, victorious king of the world. Here I am, I'm here. But then he doesn't stop there. He keeps going. He goes into modern day Afghanistan. He goes into India, and he literally does a little circle all the way around the world. He goes back into, and he dies in Babylon. That's where he stays. But his army makes their way back to Egypt. They even bring his corpse with him. The empire gets divided up into 4 empires, and then you get the Ptolemaic Empire of Egypt. Right. You get the Persian Empire, the Sassanid Empire, and then you got the Romans and the Greeks. So what happened was that changed the world forever. What Alexander the Great did was he changed the world. There was before Alexander the Great, when the world was just a bunch of loose tribes everywhere, and crime was rampant, and there was no order at all. And then Alexander the Great, being learned by these philosophers, comes out and takes over the entire planet. And then it happens over and over again after that. It happens with Muhammad. It happens with Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar goes into Gaul, takes over all of Europe, Romanizes it, brings him back to Rome. Does the same thing in Africa, takes over Egypt. I mean, so for the rest of history from Alexander forward is about these great military geniuses trying to
do what said it can't be done.
Right. And they all got their forefront from Alexander the Great.
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's mind blowing right there, bro.
Yeah, the ideology that the world needs just one great leader.
Yeah, and the reason why I say it like that is because a lot of times people look at these they kind of look at these, they call them tyrants, and you're right. I mean what are these people doing? They're conquering, they're pillaging and doing all types of.
But there's a fine line of ingenious.
Right. So I was going to say something real quick too. So when you burn down a forest, the ashes become soil and it grows back even greater.
Right.
So we kind of see that in history with these ancient wars and these ancient battles where you see complete carnage, and then out of that carnage comes the entire new idea and society and civilization that's never been done before.
But I mean, unlike with the you give that soil 100 years, and if it's rich, it'll produce another tree.
Right.
But we're not trees.
Right.
So it's beautiful.
Yeah, where the people that died go grow back from.
So it's beautiful. As beautiful as that shit sound, I think it's time we learn from history.
Yeah.
And I think part of being able to do that is to not call some of these tyrants evil, or you know what I mean, make their decisions a depiction of good and evil.
You know what it is? It's about justice, though. So
each one of these people, not to cut you off, but it seems like each one of these people were inspired by some wrongdoing that happened.
Hitler was inspired by America.
Darius, who Alexander defeated, had the whole Middle East enslaved. His army was all slaves. Alexander, I don't know, this could be not true. This could be false. Supposedly, because the victors always write history.
Of course.
You got to remember that. So if Darius would have won, maybe he would have wrote. He might have wrote the same thing about Alexander. All his army was slaves, and all my army are free men. But the story goes that Alexander's army was all free men that wanted to go and fight for him, and that Darius had an army of slaves. That's what the victory. Like we said, we don't know. We can only go by what the victor writes. So when Carthage and Rome fought the Punic Wars,
epic.
The Romans wrote the Romans won that war. And they wrote that the Carthaginians were sacrificing children, and we know that's a bunch of bullshit. Because the victor always writes in whatever they want. They want you to hate the other guy.
Yeah.
So you got to take every history, especially ancient history. There
wasn't. They used to rewrite history.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's crazy. And imagine all the original knowledge that was either taken or burned from the losing side, because the victor goes to spoil.
And that happens
because
so much.
That's what they used to do back in the day. It
wasn't how much knowledge is lost?
Like
ancient stuff.
I mean, you had one of the greatest libraries in the world at Nineveh in Assyria. The Library of Nineveh. It's written about in the Bible.
Yeah.
That whole entire library got burned to the ground.
Yep.
The library at Alexandria in Egypt burned to the ground. This happens all the time, where if somebody goes in and invades something and they don't want anything left to resemble that place, they want to change it up completely. We saw that happen with ISIS.
It's said that the oldest stories of history right now that are known to be had is by the Catholic Church.
Yeah. They have the most extent library known to man in the Vatican, and
now is anybody welcome to that library?
Watch the tapping. I'm resting. No, you're good. You can't hear. You don't have headphones.
Yeah.
But what'd you say?
Now, is that library only accessible to?
That's a good question. I heard that anybody can go to the Vatican and go through there, but I don't think that's true. There's got to be some sort of
I wouldn't doubt that there's like rooms you can't encounter. Right. There's floors you don't know about.
I know one thing though. There's a part of the Vatican they call like the dark section or something like that. I can't remember the name.
Probably got all
time. I heard even in the United States, there's shit underneath the White House.
Yeah. Well, the library, this library that I'm talking about in the Vatican, it's where they put all the heretical manuscripts, that heretics that were not Christian, that they didn't like, and all like the scientific mathematical papers that they didn't like about the earth being round, because the Catholic Church fought that for hundreds of years.
We're going to touch on the flat earther theory real quick.
We could.
Oh my
God. The Catholic Church was one of the biggest proponents.
Let's go.
The Catholic Church said the earth is flat forever, and anyone that came around and said otherwise, they would hang them or burn them to death. Yep. Right. But before we get into that though, we were talking about how ancient history, there was no fact checkers, there was no sources cited. So when someone wrote something down, you didn't know if he was trying to push propaganda or not. I'll give you an example. This is a book called Herodotus: The Histories. This is an ancient book. Ancient Greek book. This is an English translation.
Definitely got to read that through.
He writes about the Scythians, which is modern day, but like Crimea, Ukraine, the Black Sea region, and that they are the precursor to the Scandinavians. That's why it's Scythians, Scandinavians. Anyways, he writes about these people that he calls them the distant lands that we don't know anything about. All we know is word of mouth. And he talks about the one-eyed men and the griffins. That became entrenched in mythology, Nordic mythology. So he writes this: while the Icidenes themselves are well known, we must rely on what they tell us for knowledge of what lies beyond them. The one-eyed men and the gold-guarding griffins. It is from the Icidenes that the Scythians have received their account. And this guy goes on to write about these people who live in the mountains in these cold areas in the deep north, where they have feet that look like goat feet, and they have one-eyed people, and all these crazy people that sleep for 6 months. He said they would people that hibernate for 6 months throughout the year. This is what this dude's writing down, and this is considered one of the greatest history books of all time for secular history. This is not a mythology book. This is a secular history book where he literally accounts. Most of it's all maps. And it's all legitimate too. So most of the stuff in here is fact. Yeah. But what I just said, does that sound like a fact?
That's that white people shit.
No, you can go. I mean, if you go into the manuscripts of Timbuktu, there's even crazier shit in there. Like the stuff that they wrote about their ancients was even. You were like, well, this world was different back then. That's all. It's the only thing
you've heard about people who. Y'all just hear me out. You've heard about tribes who were so small and so closed off from mankind that they mated with the local wildlife.
I was just reading about.
I swear to you.
Listen to this, Alexander the Great. We were talking about him.
Oh my God!
One of his.
It's getting deep, guys.
One of the people. One of the scribes that was with him on his journey. When they got to the jungles of India, they said they had people. The little tiny people in the trees with bow and arrows shooting at them, jumping around. Like that's what they said. Now, who knows if that's true? You don't, like I said, we don't have fact checkers, It could have been like them just trying to push off this like propaganda. Is like these people were going to kill them all, and they're all just animals.
But it's got to be.
But
every culture, it's crazy because every culture will have reference to the similar, if not the same name.
Yeah.
The half human, half animal.
The composition of these creatures are the same. Yeah. I got a boy that's he's half native, and he was telling me some of the stuff they have out on the reservation.
Yeah.
You know, when you're driving at night, they say beware of what they call the shrunken heads.
Yeah.
And they're small people.
Yeah.
And if you look at them, you'll be haunted forever.
They said you're not supposed to. Like if you walking around at night and you hear your name called, you can't look back.
Yo.
Yeah, I heard about that.
There's a lot of stuff, and where do these things come from? It's got to be all tied into the ancient stuff. These people, you're talking about hibernating for 6 months.
Yeah.
If a bear has to hibernate, a thing that's bigger than that, hibernating from that type of.
Come on, man, talk about it, man.
That's a historical book.
Yeah.
People have also used the Bible for historical references too.
Yeah,
even military strategies.
With
who was it that surrounded the city for 9 days in the Bible? Was it Joseph?
You starve him. You starve them out.
Right, and those are tactics that have been used. So you have to take their accounts too. In the Bible,
you're talking about Joshua.
Joshua. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Joshua, in the city. Oh man, the city. Sodom, was it?
Where he went to? The Canaanites. He conquered. Joshua came out of Sinai after Moses died,
right?
And he conquered Canaan. Jericho was the first.
City
you're
of
right.
Jericho.
That's right. That's right.
I'm
Jericho.
sorry. So the city of Jericho was a city that was laid siege to by Joshua and warriors of the Bible. And people in military, great military minds have used that strategy over and over again throughout history.
Yeah.
What's also fascinating is that books being used as historical references, the Bible talks about giants. Now, if you gonna relate that to this book in here, and many different accounts throughout history have talked about these unnormal creatures, these things walking throughout the earth. And
so this is Pliny the Elder. This book was written in 37 AD in Caesarea, right off the coast of near Lebanon and Israel. And this dude wrote about someone getting a sex change in the 1st century.
Wow.
Now, you think of that as a new thing? Not really. Look at this. It is no fable that females may be turned to males, for we have found it recorded in the annals that in the year when Pub Lucius Crassus and Crassus Longinus were consuls of Rome, there was a Cassinium, a maid, who under her parents became a boy, and by order of Arispices he was conveyed to a desert land.
Whoa.
This is Pliny the Elder. He wrote about all types of stuff back then. That was one of the things he wrote. There's all types of crazy stuff that you would never think about in here. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, we were talking about war and you hear about the evils of war, right? But you don't hear about we were talking about, we kind of gave it a different light. We were talking about Alexander as a philosopher king,
right,
taking over the world and making it like a war of a land of law and order, right?
Exactly.
But the ancient Indians wrote about this in their scripture, which is called the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata has a story in it called the Bhagavad Gita. And this story is about a prince named Arjuna who has to fight in a war against his cousin, or his uncle, I think it is, named Bhishma. And he doesn't want to do it. They love each other. But here's the thing. Both countries of India, the north and the south, they're both about to starve. They're both on the brink of starvation, famine, and only one of them can live. And if they have to take, one of them has to live, the other one has to die for there to be prosperity and wealth, or else they're all just going to be poor and struggling. So this god Krishna comes down and he tells Arjuna, and Arjuna goes, "I don't want to do this. Shouldn't I love them, and shouldn't we work together?" And then Krishna says the unthinkable. He says, "There is no greater thing than action." He's like, inaction is the wrong thing to do. Action is the right thing to do. Action is what's going to push the needle forward. He said, the people that die in this war will be honored and will go to heaven no matter what. So the loser, there will be no loser in the situation. The people that die of honor will be in heaven, and the people that win the war will push the needle of civilization forward and grow this city into a giant empire.
Wow. That's deep.
So
it had to...
So he goes in and fights his uncle and kills him. And he shoots an arrow and kills him. And then that's the end of the war, and they mourn him. And then India becomes this great golden empire because of a war. It's deep if you think about that. Super deep. He's basically saying, like, I am, and then he so then at the end, it gets even crazier. At the end of the book, Krishna shows Arjuna the universe, and it's him, and his mouth turns into this giant monster with these big sharp teeth, and eating worlds, and the worlds, and all. He's basically telling me at the end there will be nothing, but me. Like, I will. It's all going to end no matter what. There's nothing you can do to stop that. Time. The end of the world is inevitable. So the only thing you can do while you're here is action. Is to do the next thing in front of you.
And that's the ultimate message of.
That's the ultimate message.
Keep moving.
Keep pushing. So when he didn't want to go to war, when he didn't want to go to war against his uncle, he was told by God that he had to do it. He had no choice but to do it. So, sound like someone knocked, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did, man. All right, man, chill.
But anyways, no, you're good. So
your next stand up.
So with that being said, you know what I also wanted to touch on? Was World War II.
Oh yeah.
So World War II was an example of what we've been talking about.
Oh, yeah.
World War II was a decimation of half the planet. The world was destroyed after World War II. We dropped nukes on Japan. The Nazi army went out and destroyed everything. They took over France. They took over Switzerland. They took over Greece. They took over all of Europe. All that was left was basically England and Russia. And then they went into Russia. And this is where it gets crazy. So, if anyone...
They had U-boats, I think, not even 14 miles off the coast of New Jersey.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, and so the Nazis had technology that was way more advanced. They had these scientists that were geniuses.
What the rest of the world
and they were trained in rocket science. They knew how to make rockets. They knew how to make floating
Now, not to cut you off, though, for the people who don't understand how powerful that statement is, think about how long ago Hitler existed and the fact that HARP is utilized to this day.
Yeah.
His scientists created it all those years ago.
And that's exactly what I was about to say.
Man.
Here's what happened
and
as a
we
result.
use it to predict weather.
So Hitler being this evil war genius, whatever you want to call him. He's evil. He's killing. Like, he starts these concentration camps. He's killing off Jews. He's killing off everybody.
Right.
And he's literally like we talk about how the fire of a forest will bring down a forest, but then it'll rise up even greater. Yeah. So he basically is that fire, right?
Yep.
He goes out and he takes over Europe. He brings it down to ashes, and then the story was that he killed himself in a bunker with his wife Ava Braun. Okay. So as a result, and I'll hold that thought for 1 second. I'm going to go back to that for a second. But as a result of the war being over, okay, we did not beat the Germans. The Russians are technically the ones that went into Berlin and finished off the war against the Germans. We beat the Japanese by dropping those nukes. So we had our part in winning the war, and the Russians had their part in winning the war. We were equally responsible for finishing the war. The Russians went into Berlin, and they found all these new scientists and all these new labs and all these new blueprints for rockets and technology and computers and all this crazy advanced stuff that no one's ever even thought of before.
Yeah. Operation Paperclip.
Which is Operation Paperclip. The Operation Paperclip, it was a deal that was struck by the United States and the Russian government that says we're going to take half of the scientists and give them to Russia, and take the other half of the scientists and give them to the United States.
Which is crazy when you think about it, like the amount of war crimes they were responsible for.
Yeah.
The atrocities that they committed. Hundreds of people killed basically because of means of their own creation.
So, yeah, but that's the thing. So they did the Nuremberg trials, and they decided who was responsible, because those scientists were just doing what they were told. Yeah. They're just smart people that are doing what they're told.
They probably get killed too if they didn't do it.
Yeah, they hung all the generals and all all the Nazis that were responsible for all this crazy shit.
Making the orders, right?
But
right.
and I say that to say this: there were a few that were forgiven for their war crimes because of what they knew.
Well, here's the thing. So now you get into, did Hitler die in that bunker? Okay. So now here's what I'm going to say this real quick. We now know, without a shadow of a doubt, we now know that Nazis fled and went to Argentina and started a whole civilization there. It still exists to this day.
But there
are German-speaking. There are German-speaking people in Argentina now to this day, right?
Crazy.
We know from accounts of the Venezuelan people that German boats pulled up to Venezuela and they got off, and there was hundreds of, maybe thousands of people that got out and started they started building new structures there. They're all German-speaking places. They're all still there. Now here's where it gets crazy. You're taught in school that Hitler killed himself in a bunker, and that his body was recovered by the Russians and taken to Moscow. Turns out this isn't even a conspiracy, though.
It's deep shit.
We found out, and I mean, it's a conspiracy, but this part isn't. We now know that they tested, the 1990s rolls around, 40 years later, and they have the technology to now test for DNA and do carbon dating.
Right.
They find out that this body that supposedly was Hitler's isn't Hitler. So to this day, we don't know where Hitler went. We don't even know if he died. And we also know that Germans did go to Argentina. So put 2 and 2 together. That's all I'm saying. I can't tell you. I don't have evidence that Hitler fled and lived out his life. But I will tell you this, though. Put 2 and 2 together. Germans went to Argentina and lived out their lives there. 2, Hitler's body hasn't been found yet.
And those are facts.
Both facts.
And the crazy thing about it is our government, our society, our school structure in the system, not only in one specific state, but all over the country, is still allowing the fable. It's a fable. You're not telling the truth. Anything you're alluding the truth.
Right.
It's crazy. So it's like, why is it that we don't trust kids with this type of information? You should. You can teach a 12-year-old how to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
You can trust them with the truth.
Yeah. And it's what blows my mind is like,
crazy.
You didn't mention what makes you had all that money?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My God, bro.
So that's what I wanted to talk about. So think about it. Like, just use logic for a second. You're Adolf Hitler.
All that gold.
You just conquered all of Europe.
Yeah.
It hasn't been done before.
Paintings.
Otto von Bismarck tried to do it. He conquered just the East. Just like Prussia and Austria. He did that, but nobody ever got as far as Hitler before until Napoleon, which was in the 1700s. But to that day, that was the greatest military feat of, I guess besides Julius Caesar. But anyway, make a long story short, you're Hitler. You just conquered all this wealth, got all this gold from all these countries, all this. You have access to so much stuff and so much wealth. You're really just gonna off yourself in a bunker, and that's the end of it? No, you're gonna try to go somewhere with that stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of Jewish heritage that came up missing too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was all kinds of paintings and historical
books
what I'm
saying.
And record-keeping books.
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? The Mossad never forgot about what happened to their people. The Mossad is like the CIA version of the Jews. Yeah. And they actually went to Argentina and found some of these people and took them back and hung them for war crimes. It's still happening right to this day. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people from Argentina that got caught. Hitler was not one of them.
And unbeknownst to a lot of people, there were multiple governments that went to Argentina looking for him.
Yeah, this is known.
There were
you can call it.
Was wanted.
It sounds like a conspiracy theory,
but
the
United States
most
went into
wanted.
those jungles looking for him. Like,
it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. This is all easily
rumored that
easily
he had
accessible
kids out in Argentina. Like,
why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
he?
You?
Still has a bloodline.
Yeah,
man. He still has descendants. That's crazy. It's not too far fetched.
Tupac out there chilling.
Yeah,
right.
Could be, dude.
Yo,
I always think about that. Like, you think about the late Jeffrey Epstein, right? How he had all these billions of dollars, and all of a sudden he goes to jail, and all of a sudden he's dead, and all these weird facts surround his situation that he killed himself. That the cameras turned off, and then the guards were sleeping, and he just got killed. He just hung himself from a little tiny that's like this high. His knees would have hit right here. You know what I mean? And like then you found out that his plane that he owned traveled after he died.
Yep.
Went to the North Pole, they said, or South Pole, or something, Antarctica, or something. So you think like you try to think in terms of being. Imagine
be extraditable.
You gotta try to think. This is what I tell people: try to think in terms of being a billionaire and having your
resources,
having limited resources. One, and then having your allegiance isn't to any country, or it's to yourself and to your empire, to your money. Do you think this dude's just gonna give up in life? Oh, I got arrested for raping somebody. I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to go through. No, you're going to pull strings. You're going to call up Bill Clinton. You're going to say, yo, get me out of prison. I'll throw you fucking $10 billion. We do what you got to do. Get it done. Right? Tell me you wouldn't. Listen, I mean, well, people think that everybody's subject to the law, but who gives the law?
Who gives the law? The people that own the government, the money.
Right.
I mean, you got just local government. We've seen mayors. You know what I mean? They children get into trouble.
A little fuzzy. Other side. There you go. You got it.
You got to press that button now.
Yeah, you gotta cut that.
You hit the wah wah wah.
No, you got local politicians like their kids get into trouble. It's swept under the rug.
Yeah.
You don't hear about it. There's a quick story. You might see something on Facebook.
Somebody runs somebody over.
You might see one news clip.
That's a good point. That's a good point because if even on the lower levels of government,
big money.
That's what even on the lower levels. If you're seeing people get out of trouble, things get swept under the rug. Imagine at the highest levels. You know what I'm saying? People like Bill Gates. I mean, Bill Gates. You got to imagine he's probably thinking right now of a way to live forever. Yeah. He's probably our plans, our retirement. We're trying to figure like you and I are thinking of getting a career, going to school, getting education, whatever it is. You know, creating a comic, whatever our ideas are. We're trying to get that off the ground. He is so high above that I'm sure his next big project is how can I figure out a way to get my consciousness into a computer so I can live forever. Yeah. He's got. If anyone's doing that, it's got to be him.
It's got to be like. Remind me of that movie Altered Carbon.
Yeah.
When they had that is come on, that's got to be on the realm of possibility.
There's got to be someone trying to do that.
It's with AI.
Look, I just read you an ancient story about a sex change. Yeah. So if that was 2,000 years ago, imagine what's happening.
Cloning going on nowadays.
Cloning. I mean, all types of.
Genetic research is through the
That's
roof.
what that Altered Carbon was about. Like you would clone the human. Yeah. Their consciousness would be stored in some type of chip that spanned their entire life. When that clone reached maturity, the chip would be inserted into that clone.
Could you imagine
and the
a
life
fucking
would continue.
HDMI?
Bro, what the fuck?
That's crazy.
And now it's like with these kids being born, like after our generation, the millennials. Like I know my nieces and nephews, they're born with a phone in their face. Yeah. They have always
they're cyborgs.
What this object is that look at the pretty baby.
Get closer to the mic.
I'm scared of my
You know
kids.
what you're showing. You're showing this baby has seen its reflection. I wasn't born with a phone in my face.
Right.
But the generation after us
they're
been
born cyborgs.
They're all by the time they're our age, there's probably going to be some shit. By the time their kids are kids, they'll probably be tapping their wrists and the hologram comes out and it's going to be implanted in them. That stuff is it's the future and it's happening right now.
Back in the day, they
crazy.
Used to tell us to go outside, quit playing the game.
Yeah.
Now it's to the point where you tell kids, watch a movie or something.
Yeah. Right.
How fucked up does that sound?
I mean, listen.
Get off of YouTube. Watch a movie.
Think about it.
Get off of TikTok.
We have a generation of cyborg kids that are literally have Google. They have all these books right here, plus a million more books right there at their hand. Now, it used to be 10 years ago, before this new internet law got passed. So, this internet used to be like a place where anything it was like the wild, wild west. Everything was ready. You could just throw anything out there. And now they got it, so it's like, it's pretty controlled now.
Yeah.
Like a little kid is going to be, when he looks something up on the internet, it's going through a filter through Silicon Valley of what that kid wanted that kid to see. You know what I'm saying? They don't want everyone to have access to all the information. But like we were talking about, these kids are cyborgs, so these kids have access to information that we never had as kids. They can look up anything, they can look up data, stats, all that. It's all right there. And it's crazy because that gets into the next topic is like AI. What's coming down? What's next? But these kids are cyborgs with their phones, but AI, what's that going to be like? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they basically created like a lot of robotic. Have you guys ever looked at the like food industry in like China?
Yeah.
A lot of it is robotic.
Right.
It's not like here in the United States where you go into McDonald's, you order, you got a human being sit right there. Like a lot of this is factorized. Like have you drop a couple videos, a small couple clips in the in the video
machines. Well, they have there's like I know there's like estimates.
Actual robots, bro.
Yeah, robots that have gathered information that is what is supposed to be the most nutritious, what is supposed to be the most.
You get closer, you're talking. That's all.
So yeah, and it's like as I was saying, these robots have already information what's best for the human body.
Yeah.
What's already predetermined, for that robot to do, and it's making these things in the factory. And
algorithms,
data, chips, chip payments. You get a chip in your wrist now. You
everything's an algorithm now. Everything they got. I mean, advertisement, marketing. It's all there's an algorithm for everything now. Everything is like science. Like they want to make everything so
segmented is crazy.
Yeah. So it's just crazy how the world is going into a direction that's totally digital. Like here we are right now talking in a conversation, trying to get other people involved. Oh yeah, by the way, I want to take this. Just remind me. I want to take this moment to congratulate and to say hello to my biggest fan, Marmarland. You're just the best fan that I've ever had, man. Thanks for watching all my videos and commenting.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, calling me racist and all this stuff, man.
That's
my personal hater,
personal troll.
Yeah, personal. And dude, I love it. Keep watching, keep tuned in, dude. You're making me know that I'm doing something right. I got someone that loves me that much.
That's cool. That's definitely dope.
Yeah, we all got one of those, dude. Yeah. So I just thought I'd shout you out, Marlon. I see you in the comments right now. Oh, look, I see you right there. Look at all that shit he's talking right now. Look at all that shit right there. Look at all that shit. This dude's going off on me right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Thank you, though. You're helping me out because now my videos, I'm just going to show them a little clip of my subscriber activity in the last couple of days. Yeah. Look, yeah. See that? Oh, how that must hurt.
Man, Nickel City Chronicles taking over, bro.
Facts.
Yeah, man.
Facts.
Yo.
But it's I mean it's unnerving, like when you think about it, to just know and understand like these technological advancements they make our lives easier,
right?
Yeah. And we to an extent like we enjoy them.
Yeah.
Is this the question is this the progression? Is this the precursor to the evolution of human?
Right.
Beings?
What was that?
Right.
That's the scary thing.
That's what it is.
And it's just you see it every day. Like it's in your face how a facial recognition knows you better than you'll know how to recognize somebody if you were to plainly see them with your own eyes.
Right.
Like it's has the computer seen that person enough to recognize them in your photo? That's the crazy thing about it, bro.
You got biometrics. Like
the big question is,
it's
combining
ridiculous.
These technologies.
Yeah, biochemicals.
Come on, bro.
What's it called, dude? You were talking about how these things make our lives easier, and it's like it becomes a point where we're sacrificing our old ways of like being with nature. You know what I'm saying? How people used to live out in the nature and look up and see the stars every night and see all the constellations, and they'd write myths about them. Whereas now we're in these cities, these dense cities, where there's a big fog over us from these lights. We can't even see the stars anymore. Yeah. So we're sacrificing our connection to nature to a new connection to this like digital world that's like. It's there, but you can't really touch it, but it's there.
It's there.
You know what I'm saying? And that brings it to my next thing is, will there be a time when it turns on us? When AI, like the movie, what's that movie called?
Terminator.
Terminator's one of them. There's a bunch of them.
What is that?
Eagle Eye
with Will Smith.
Yeah, the Will Smith.
I Am Legend.
Yeah. I'm thinking of one of those Will Smith movies where that
was like a virus though.
Yeah, no, not that one.
I Am Legend.
No, not I Am Legend.
iRobot.
I think it's called.
iRobot was pretty good. Yeah.
Somebody type in the chat what it's called.
Yeah.
But anyways, the thing, and there's Ex Machina. Ever seen that movie?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Now
man.
that's the question. That's a philosophical concept. Is AI going to be smart enough and capable enough to turn on humans the same way we turned on nature?
But at the same time, like if you think about it, and this is the flawed logic in AI, if it's if it's
what if it can figure out how to reproduce grow, like humans?
Yeah, but
like what if it can figure out how to...
The only way to do that is by gaining more knowledge.
Yeah. Or they just build more.
It will eventually come to the understanding, and this is the fucked up knowledge with AI.
Synthetic human beings,
come to the understanding that the only way to save the human race is to
annihilate it. Because it's not about the human race, but if it's about the earth, or humans are causing the most damage to the earth. If it can make a decision for you and can pick out names, what if it starts making decisions what's best for us? Because it was created to make the decision for us.
Right. We're killing all species.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Nature, whatever you want to call it, nature or God or whatever you want to call it, the universe produced us for a reason to do whatever, you know what I'm saying, to do its will.
Right.
And we have turned on it now, and we have turned to technology as our new frontier. Will AI, because we are nature,
right?
We are a part of nature. We produced AI just the way nature produced us. Will AI turn on us
like we turned on nature,
and just like we turn on nature? Or is that part of the evolution?
Is that part of the design? Are we supposed to evolve into artificial intelligence?
Or is AI nature? Is it all nature? Now, is there that comes to the next concept? Is everything just the result? Is that everything just a result? Hold on. Is everything just a result of cause and effect? Cause and effect. Cause and effect up until this point.
Now we talk about throughout history in multiple religions. There was always a point in time, and we talk about like the dinosaurs, and there was always a point in time in which the earth was cleansed.
You got that thing again on your head.
Oh, damn it.
There you go. You got it.
Emergent.
Yeah.
It's right there now. Yeah.
But there was always a time in which the earth was like cleansed.
Right. Yeah.
Whether it was by water or fire, like
right.
What if? And this is gonna take a turn I don't want to lose y'all.
Do it.
Do it.
What if this was part of the trend in that otherworldly being coming down to earth?
Yeah.
What if it was the cleanse of us to keep the earth as good a condition that, because throughout the years all we did, more fires, we killed more meat. Instead of killing for food, we killed for trophies.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I don't know if this is actual. I've heard a lot about this, and if it relates to like the book of Genesis in the Bible, that talk about the Garden of Eden and the very first rules of man or whatever, that we weren't necessarily supposed to eat meat. It was like everything is supposed to be produced in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
So like if you're talking about, like you're saying, killing meat, then that's also destroying the planet.
Yep.
You're not helping the
but now look where
your fellow creatures.
Yeah.
That's
a whole other wormhole right there.
Yeah, it gets deep with that, bro.
Yeah.
Man, and what you're saying about the tech AI, to go back on that, because I didn't want to lose focus on that. I was watching. You should also link this YouTube channel in it. It's on Netflix. Alien Worlds. They talk about. It was a documentary about certain species, and the ultimate way to ultimately travel through space, even as us, would be to complete automation and simulation to artificial intelligence, to robots, to an organism, a hive mind like organism.
Yeah.
Basically, that's when we'll be able to travel through space and time.
Wow.
When us as a species, as a civilization, the whole planet, and I think that's what that ties it all in. With artificial intelligence and everything like this, to think together,
and that makes you
consciousness wonder. To like, okay, we know everybody is linked and we can even think the same. Every movement that we make is predetermined, thought out by the whole conscious as a whole.
Wow.
And that's the only way we'll truly be able to travel through space, to become like artificial intelligence.
Yeah. And that makes you wonder the question, is there a collective consciousness? One, if there is a collective consciousness, does that mean when the universe ends and a black hole sucks everything up, does that mean that collective consciousness will be brought before something and be judged or something? Is there some sort of creator? Are we in a simulation right now? Is there some sort of creator that created this simulation that's going to take the whole collective consciousness as a whole and bring it through whatever it is that we're in, and take it out of there, and we go into another realm? That's another thing. And then the other question that you were bringing up is people like Bill Gates and the billionaires and the trillionaires and whoever's out there, are they working on some sort of way to travel through space-time, go back and forth and travel through time to fix certain things and adjust certain things accordingly to make this whole thing work in their will.
But if you think about algorithms like in themselves, that's the brink of collective consciousness. An algorithm is basically something that is
that's a good point, Robbie.
Paying attention and looking for keywords,
right.
red flags.
When
and
is that
it's thinking on its own to grab these. You could have, there's a Edward Snowden. And a lot of people don't know who Edward Snowden is. Between him
and
Obama,
Russia right now, chilling.
That flag was blown. We know who you is now, bro.
Yeah.
Based on what they brought to our attention is that there's a computer out there that is basically monitoring everything. Everything.
Yeah. No, he blew the whistle, man. He told us that. But it was like he gave us information that we all knew.
Yeah.
We all knew the government was watching us and they can tap into our phones. We just didn't have the proof. We just didn't have it validated yet. But now it's validated because of Edward Snowden.
Right.
But that makes you wonder, like, how far advanced are humans that we don't know about? And is there already time travel being done? Because think about it, once you get into the realm of time travel, because according to quantum physics, according to Einstein, time travel is possible if you can travel at the speed of light. Because if you look at a star right now in the sky, you're looking in the past.
You're looking as that star was so many light years ago.
Right. So if time travel does exist, that means it should happen already. That means the future already happened. If time is just relative to the viewer, that means the future already happened, the past is already here, and that means it's all just one big linear event, and that means someone right now is traveling in time right now.
And you're saying that to say that we're seeing that distant stars as they were billions of years ago. That means billions of years ago, right now, it was already happening.
Right.
And that this event was to come to pass. So on the other side of the spectrum is somebody viewing us right now. From a distant galaxy looking at this right now. That's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling.
I always said I think the Earth is like somebody's reality show.
Right.
That would make a lot of fucking sense. If somebody was out there like, look, I think they might
just laughing at us, all the crazy stuff we do.
They got a couple more eons to go before they can catch up with our intelligence.
And that's when you start to get into, they call civilizations have types. Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, Type 4. Somebody could argue that God is like a being that has reached like Type 4 civilization, where you're basically, you've heard about this, right? Like Type 1 is like civilization. We'd be considered Type 1. We can control the energy on this planet, lights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Type 2, they can control like the resources of like their neighboring solar system, their planets. Like Type 3, you can control the power of your sun to a degree where you're using that shit to open up wormholes.
Right. And Type 4 is you can make a simulation of your own and be a god of it.
You can create. You at Type 4, you're creating universe.
Yeah.
So who's
what though? We just hit that hour mark, and that right there is going to be the next week.
We gotta come back
next week.
Oh my God, this is crazy.
We went from ancient history all the way up to future.
Yeah.
And now next week we're going to talk futuristic topics only, and see where it takes us. Did we even plan on talking about the future?
No.
We said we're going to do a show about the history, ancient history, and here we are talking about time traveling, and so that's what we're next week. Next week we're going to do the same thing.
Sounds good to me.
Be here. I wanted to get drunk and talk about big booty hoes. So.
Yeah, there's always a time.
But Robbie, you close us out.
As always. Good having you. I love my cousin. Booty dad.
Fucking God.
So as always, if nobody told you today, I love you. Love will, and it is going to cure this world. If you got somebody next to you right now while you're watching this or listening to it, look at them and tell them that you love them. Again, love is and will cure this world. Peace and love.
Peace out. That was good, guys.